Oh, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this Sunday Stuff and Things, we have stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things you can look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon. We're going to talk about interactions that you can have while photographing people and things and places. And kind of one of the added benefits for me to doing photography is not just the pictures that I get at the end of the day, but it's also just engaging with people and the world out there. So I'll tell you some stories from an interesting photography day that I had 2 days ago, actually. We will have your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag askstuffandthings, and then we will end the show, as usual, with the Patreon shoutouts and updates. I had to adjust right there. Let's get into it. Where's my coffee? Okay, what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon? Well, this coming week, we will have the first impressions video for a very interesting blend. This is Cornell & Diehl Sunset Harbor Flake. I've actually already done the full review of this as well. I'm a little ahead. In the first impressions video, I was pretty positive, and there's some very unique things about this blend. And I think if you are into that kind of thing, you will find this interesting. It is a Patreon exclusive, but if you would like to take a look, there is a link to Patreon below. The week after that, I finally got a Leica lens. And I'm gonna see if I just pull this up into frame slightly. Whoop. You may be able to tell what that lens is, but we're gonna do a box opening of it soon. I had been saving up to get a 50mm lens for my Leica M4, and when I started looking at my options, I was pretty much decided on getting a Voigtlander or Voigtlander 50mm, but then as I started looking, I found out that there were some vintage Leica options that were around the same price as the modern Voigtlander lens, and I decided to go that route and ended up getting something very cool. The box opening video is me being kind of apprehensive about the lens because I didn't pay very much for it and wondering if it was in okay shape. So I'll talk a bit about the lens, we'll open it up, you'll get to take a look at it and see if it is indeed in good shape and good enough for me to actually use. And then the week after that, another Patreon exclusive video will be the full review of Sunset Harbor Flake. Lots of good stuff coming up on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon. Okay, very quickly, a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I don't even know now, I mentioned anime and subtitles and how I am very adamant in my belief that you should watch anime or any foreign media in its original language and use subtitles. But since I posted that, a couple messages have come in, people have left me comments asking me to recommend anime series. And not to get too crazy in the weeds with this, I just did watch a series that I really, really liked, and I will recommend it to people out there. It is called Spy Family. It really scratches the itch for me where it is set in kind of a vague Cold War Eastern country. And these aren't real life countries, but you can imagine that it's sort of based on kind of behind the Iron Curtain. Maybe it's East Germany, maybe it's like Czechoslovakia or someplace like that during the Cold War, but it's not really set in our universe. But just the clothing, the technology, the setting, the architecture, it's all kind of maybe late 60s, early 70s, Cold War era, Eastern European. And it's so cool. I don't know what it is. It's really funny. It's kind of sweet. There are great action scenes. It is consistently funny and really clever, and I don't find that in a lot of just Western drama shows, or not drama if you're talking about comedy, but just consistently clever, well-written. lives within the world that it creates really well, doesn't break the rules that it sets out for the world that it creates. And the kind of high-level elevator pitch for this series is that the West's #1 spy, Tassogare, or Twilight, is sent into the East, Ostiania, or Ostania, I think is the name of the country, to gather information on a political leader who could be plotting war with the West. And in order to get this information, he needs to invent a fake family for himself, because the only way to get close to this political leader is through a prestigious school that the political leader's sons go to. And so he has to get a fake family with a fake child and a fake wife, and then insert that child into the school. I'm making this sound more complicated than it actually is, but he is a master spy. The woman he finds to be his wife is an assassin, and the daughter he finds at a shady orphanage can read minds. And none of them know these facts about the other. So there's master spy, assassin, and mind-reading psychic daughter. It sounds absurd, and it is absurd, but it all works really well together. It's really funny. Again, I wouldn't recommend it for children necessarily, because it can be pretty violent, and there are some adult situations that happen, but it is also kind of zany and madcap and like cute at the same time. So it's kind of weird, the tenor of the show. But if any of you out there who have been asking me about recommendations for an anime series, if you are interested, it is on Crunchyroll right now. And it's one of the more enjoyable series I have watched in a very long time. Spy Family, or Spy X Family, as it is written. Very, very good. All right, but now to the topic at hand, photography. And going out, as I do nearly every single day, especially now that the days are getting longer, I can get off of work. If I'm home by 4:30, it is still light, and it will be light for several hours. So I'm able now to pretty much every day go out, and even in the winter, I was doing it very, very often, multiple times per week. And it's interesting because some of the days I'll go out, I'll take my camera with me. I have kind of a routine that I try to break myself of every once in a while, because I don't want to keep going to these same places all the time, even though there is something to be said for revisiting the same areas and kind of really knowing your environment where you're trying to take pictures. If you're trying to do documentary style photography and candid pictures of people, you keep going to the same place and you sort of learn that location. And it doesn't mean you're going to get something every single day, but when you can get something, you're very comfortable and familiar with that place. And so sometimes I go out, I don't really get anything. I'll take a couple pictures, maybe not. I might not even hit the shutter. If I'm using my film camera, my Leica, I may not snap a single picture because I'm a little more reserved when I'm photographing with my film cameras. And then some days you might go out and you'll get all sorts of pictures, or you think you are, because again, you have to develop them and see how they're going to look. So that's one aspect. Are you going to get good pictures? Are you not? But for me, one of the very interesting things that has occurred ever since I started doing this, it's been 2 years now, I guess, that I've been going out on an almost daily basis and trying to get photographs, is just how much more connected you feel to your world, your community, to the people out there. If I were to go downtown for a reason, let's say I'm going to go to a bookstore, or I'm going to go to a coffee shop, or I'm going to go to do something, go to the dry cleaners or something, I'm usually focused on that task, and I am getting out of my car, or if I'm walking, I'm just walking to that location, I'm doing the thing that I'm doing, and then I'm walking back. When I go out to photograph, I'm looking around. I'm browsing the people who are walking around. I'm looking at the lighting. I'm looking at the weather. I'm very aware of the weather, the light, the time of day, the kinds of things that people are doing, the routines that people engage in. And then I also end up getting into all sorts of conversations with strangers because I am open to the interaction, and I think it's just apparent. Because I'm not sort of tunnel vision walking down the street, going to my destination, I look engaged and or engaging. I'm here ready to let everybody in to a certain extent. And so I just end up having all these conversations, all these different interactions. Sometimes that'll turn into good photographs. I'm usually not trying to take pictures of people with whom I'm speaking. I'm trying to take candid pictures, but people might see you with your camera. They might want to talk about it. That happens all the time, especially since I started taking a Leica around with me. There are people who know that brand and know the look of the cameras, and they get excited and want to talk to you about it. Some people just want to talk about photography in general. A lot of people are really excited about film photography, and you just end up getting this really nice sense of connection and belonging to a community. So the other day I went out, and it was just kind of the weirdest Sesame Street kind of day, where everywhere I was going, I was either seeing people who I knew personally, like, hey, Bradley, and I'm like, hey, and having conversations, just randomly meeting these friends, sometimes very, very old friends of mine. I think there were 3 different friends of mine who I saw within a 2-hour period when I was out walking around with my camera. So that's one thing. I had one really negative interaction, well, not even really negative, but I always go to this one coffee shop all the time when I'm going to go take pictures, and I usually go in, get a coffee, and if it's a nice enough day, they have tables and chairs that are outside. They're usually locked up if it's raining, but if it's a nicer day, they will have unlocked them and spread them out, and I like to sit out there and do some people watching, sometimes even some photography from in front of the coffee shop. This day, I went to the coffee shop, and there were some homeless people, unhoused people, whatever you want to call them. The tables were not unlocked. They were stacked, and then there's a big stack of these stackable plastic chairs that they put around the tables, but they were all stacked up, and one of these people was just perched on top of this stack like a gargoyle on Notre Dame, and there was another person that was like sitting up on one of the tables. So they were sitting where they weren't supposed to be because the tables were unlocked. They also shouldn't be sitting there because they're supposed to be for customers. They're supposed to be for customers to use. And they were also smoking. And they were literally 2 feet away from the door. I went inside the coffee shop, and you could smell it so strongly in there. And they were burning incense. The poor baristas in there were burning incense, trying to mask the smell because they were intimidated. They didn't want to go out and talk to these people. And so I'm a talker to her. Like, I don't really care. So I went out and told them that they shouldn't be smoking and that they should leave, that the tables were for the customers. They did stop smoking. They didn't leave, but it was like, okay, I don't know what the point of this is other than it wasn't a necessarily positive interaction, but it was an interaction. I was engaged with the world. I wasn't taking pictures of them or anything. But just like a few minutes after that, I was walking down the street, and there was another homeless guy, and I could just see like smoke wafting from outside of a white van. There was kind of a broken down looking white van parked on the side of the road. And I was like, okay, I've got my camera. And again, I don't typically look for homeless people to photograph because that is kind of a weird can of worms. You don't know. In my opinion, you just sort of have to know whether or not it feels right to take a picture of a homeless person. In some ways, I don't think that it's proper to categorize them as something other, because we're all human beings. If I'm taking pictures of human beings and then I say, well, I can't take a picture of someone who's poor or homeless, what is that saying? Is it saying that they're not a human being, that they're not in the same category as everyone else? No, they are in the same category as everyone else. We're all people. And if a person is doing something interesting, just because they may or may not be homeless doesn't mean that I should or shouldn't take a picture of them. But there's also kind of a gray area there. So I'm not always thinking about that, but I'm cognizant of it. And if it feels right, I'll do it. If it doesn't, I won't. And that's just kind of my own personal judgment call. So I wasn't going in looking to take a picture, but I saw this smoke wafting, and I could smelled kind of like jalapeno or something. So I peek into this van, and there's this old Mexican guy in there. And I was like, oh, that smells good. What are you cooking? And he's like, oh, I'm making chili. I probably shouldn't do the accent. And so he starts going. A lot of these people just really want to have a conversation and be treated like a human being. And so I started having a conversation with him about his chili. He was very excited about the chili, and he let me take some pictures. I was taking a picture of him. He had like a little gas stove or a little gas burner inside his van, which was just crammed with all sorts of crazy stuff. He was cooking this chili on top of that, making some kind of verde chili. But then he started talking about the tongue. And I was like, the what? Like, the tongue. And he takes out a giant beef tongue that's just in a bag. And he was really excited. He was going to make tacos with the chili and the tongue. And it was just such a weird, cool, fun interaction. I got to take pictures of him. His name was Gabe. I took pictures of the tongue. Did I get good pictures of the tongue? I'm not sure. I haven't developed any of these yet. But then, I don't know, like I wouldn't have had that interaction probably if I hadn't had my antenna up in photography mode. I just would have walked past that van. I ran into another woman who I was walking and she saw me with my camera and she just mouthed in this really weird way, "Have fun," and then tittered to herself and then kind of followed me around for a while I was taking pictures. I ran into a woman who was downtown who was standing by a vehicle that was parked in a metered parking lot, and she waved me down as I was walking by, and because I had my camera and because I was in that, you know, sort of open mode, I went and stopped and talked to her, and she asked if I could drive a stick shift. And then I helped her move her car, or I guess it was her friend's car, from that parking spot into another paid parking spot that she had a card for or something. I don't know, like these aren't the kinds of interactions you would normally have if you're just going from point A to point B. But when you're out there with your camera, looking around, looking at people, paying attention to people, these are the kind of interactions that you can have. And this doesn't happen every single day I go out with my camera, but it happens quite a bit. And it's fun. So photography is kind of a goal in and of itself. You're trying to get pictures of things. And that's fun, and that can be very satisfying, can also be very frustrating. But also just going out and letting the world come to you is part of the fun as well. So I recommend, if you're somebody who takes pictures of landscapes, or you only take pictures of very specific things, maybe try just going out one time and doing some documentary style photography. Just walk around with your camera where there are people and where you might have these interactions, because I think, well, I guess it depends on the kind of person you are, but you may really enjoy it. It's quite nice. Ugh, had to change the battery, and man, I was blathering on a lot about that, but now it is time for hashtag askstuffandthings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, you can tweet at SATBradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings. But you probably shouldn't, because nobody does, and I never read Twitter/X anyway. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can write to me via Patreon and go right to the front of the line. You can hit that super thanks button under this video and go right to the front of the line, or you can leave questions, comments, and feedback in the comment section of my YouTube videos. First of all, we have a missive from a patron on Patreon, but this was on YouTube, I think. This is our good friend Chris Caughey, who said, "Shame is a category that is missing from American culture for the worse." So I was talking about calling people out in public, in person, can sometimes be a good thing to do. But again, this is a big can of worms. You have to pick your battles. You have to know when is the appropriate time. You shouldn't run around getting in everyone's business all the time. But it was a man who let his dog poop on the sidewalk and then just left it there. And I felt compelled to tell him what I thought of that. Next, we have at Michael Case 8574, who says, "Once in a while when I'm out and about, I run into a guy at a stoplight riding a bike with another bike on the hip." So he's riding a bike and then like pulling a bike. "I will say to them so that others can hear and ask them, 'Where did you steal that from?' Some swear at me and others just ride on. There are some Chinese companies making fantastic new lenses for the Leica M mounts, rather reasonably priced for new lenses." So yeah, in that case, I probably wouldn't say that, because you don't know for sure that they stole that bike. It could be someone who's like, "Oh, my friend left their bike downtown and I'm going to return it to them, and I'm riding my bike, so I'm going to bring it." You don't know for sure. I mean, you're probably right. They probably are stealing it, but I might shy away from that. Yeah, and I have seen a lot of Chinese M-mount lenses. I can't remember any of the brand names right now, but I've heard that there are some pretty good ones out there. Definitely things worth looking into. At Mark Inry says, "Hi Bradley, it's been a little while. I think you have articulated where we are perfectly. There is no accountability anymore, and these people need to be called out. But as you noted, it varies by situation. I am mainly doing documentary photography with my R6 and enjoy your thoughts on all things photography." I don't know why I said photography. Cool. Oh no, R8, not R6, R8. At Theodosius says, "We absolutely need to bring back public shaming for so many reasons." Again, in certain situations, not all the time. Next, we have at Ultra Classic, who says, I went to New York back in the mid-90s and stopped in at a famous camera store, B&H. I have gotten many things from B&H. That's where I get most of my film online, is from B&H. Hard to believe with what inflation has done, but I walked out of there with a mint Leica M6, a motor drive, and a 35mm Summicron f2 lens. Cost back then out the door was around $2,000. Because of your photography videos, I have gotten back into shooting Tri-X with my M6. This and my Hasselblad bodies and lenses is what is left of a 30-some years as a commercial photographer. Hope you enjoy your new lens. Thank you very much. That's very cool to hear. So $2,000 for an M6, a motor drive, and a Summicron, all in mint condition in the 90s. What would that cost now? Probably, I don't know, 8,000 or 9,000, maybe more, probably more. But what is 2,000, let's say 2,000 in 1995 in today's money? Let's see. Give me one moment. Inflation calculator. Bureau of Labor Statistics. We have $2,000 in let's just pick 95. And then calculating, it is now $4,348. So it's still probably half of what it would cost now in today's money. So yeah, I think it would be probably close to $8,000 or $9,000 in today's money. And back in the 90s, in today's money, it was half that. So prices have risen an incredible amount. Let's see, we have a bit of feedback on the important photo books available on Amazon video that I posted last week. So I'm always complaining about the fact that photo books are hard to find and they're super expensive. And even if it's a very famous photographer, they're often not in print. But I highlighted some books that are currently available. They're very easy to get. They're on Amazon now. Books by people like Robert Frank, Walker Evans, Gary Winogrand, Henri Cartier-Bresson, who else? Bruce Davidson, some huge names. There are some great books out there that you can buy for a reasonable price. And so Andy RSV said, thanks for the suggestions. I was able to get Winogrand and Henri Cartier-Bresson. Would love to see more recommendations in the future. Maybe a part 2. Maybe, if I find any more, but they are hard to find, so we'll see. And the next Ultra Classic says, reminds me of the photographers that I studied at SIU back in the early 70s. Some great discussions came out of those photography classes. Those are some wonderful books for any photo library. Thank you so much for all that feedback, gang. Please keep it coming in. It really helps make the show go. But now, gang, it is time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support Stuff and Things on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it is much appreciated. It is basically what keeps the lights on at the Stuff and Things studio. It allows me to keep making these videos. If you like anything that I post on YouTube, and if you are interested in getting that stuff early and ad-free, $5 a month gets you in on Patreon. If you're into the pipe stuff that I used to post on YouTube, now it has to exclusively go to Patreon. Again, $5 a month gets you in there. There's an exclusive new pipe video every other week, and then every week on a Thursday, you get a video from the archive of my old pipe blend reviews. So every week, we like to shout out those who support Stuff and Things on Patreon at $25 or more a month. The producers of Stuff and Things. People like Jason Buckner, Arcturus, Ashes of the Phoenix, The Friendly Piper, GreatGrol, Glenn, Just Glenn, David Severin, Nicholas James, Kyle Whitmore, Mr. Gibson, Chris Caughey, and Ryan McFadin. And of course the Maniacs, the crazy people who support Stuff and Things at $100 a month, people like Bob Magee. And we'll never forget our dearly departed friend and Hall of Fame member, Peter Straub. Gang, what can you look forward to exclusively on the Stuff and Things Patreon this week? Well, on Monday, we will have the first impressions of Cornell & Diehl Sunset Harbor Flake. And then on Thursday, from the archives, we will have McClelland Christmas Cheer 2017. A big blast from the past. McClelland doesn't exist anymore. The Christmas Cheer series doesn't exist anymore. But this was from November 30th, 2016. McClelland Christmas Cheer 2017. Lots more good stuff coming up on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon. Please stay tuned for all of it. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.